special operations soul taker to now a soul saver. I mean, how many of you guys have a story like that? All right. How many? All right. So this is going to be an interesting one. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Comfort and Chaos, a Dead Drop edition, team. Thank you guys so much for clicking and being present. Thank you so much. As you guys know, we come up to you with a bunch of different content on this in a bunch of different forms, and one of those forms is, of course, the Dead Drop. All right, and with the Dead Drop, you guys already know, check out our previous video, our Dead Drop episode 1. You can check that out. We bring in a special guest, all right, who has a special story, a story that we can all learn from, benefit from, and also have a good laugh, you know, and hear the points that you can pull from that story and how they found comfort in their chaos. Because as you know, chaos comes in multiple forms and we all engage it every day and in different ways. All right, team. But if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'd love to have you for the journey ahead. And as we continue to bring in more special, talented individuals with amazing stories in the Dead Drop series. But we want you guys to be a part of that. So please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, I'm going to kind of give you a little brief intro a little bit, but I'm going to let my co-host, Will, say what's up real quick.
What's up, brother? It's great to have another Dead Drop on the way in.
Finally, man, it's been a while, right? We've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, we have awesome guests tonight. You know, again, right? That Dead Drop, that covert sharing of information, right? From our podcast center of the universe, right to your ear holes.
That's right.
To share that knowledge and spread it wide across the world of these stories of these amazing people, all right, that deserve to have their stories told. So definitely an awesome night tonight.
Amen. Guys, so this guy, all right, team, let me tell you, all right. I'm just gonna call him Dave. All right. I'm gonna let Will handle all the details. But let's just hype this up a little bit. All right. Let's just give you this brief introduction. Let's just a mission statement describing him. Just think special operations soul taker to now a soul saver. I mean, how many of you guys have a story like that? All right. How many? All right. So this is going to be an interesting one, and I look forward to this. But without further ado, I'm not gonna. This is Will. This is Will's teammate here, his buddy, his battle buddy, his warrior husband, whatever you guys call it. I have no idea. I'm looking forward to hear these stories. But Will, I'm gonna let you handle the intro of this guy.
Well, why thank you. Why thank you, good sir. Yeah, let's talk about it for a second, right? So we are having on tonight a absolute phenomenal individual, David Kottner the third. So David Kottner, right? So Dave was a teammate of mine at 10th Special Forces Group, an intelligence NCO. He was one of my junior soldiers there for a number of years. Phenomenal individual. Comes from an extremely amazing faith background. Got out of the military, right? Coming in straight to soft, multiple deployments, 2 deployments to Iraq. I'm gonna bring him up on screen right now so everybody can see this amazing human.
Oh man,
there he is. There's Dave.
There he is.
Hey guys. 2 deployments to Iraq. One with two different special forces groups. So deployed with 1st Special Forces Group, deployed with 10th Special Forces Group in the different regions of Iraq. Phenomenal junior NCO that I had the distinct privilege of pinning E5 on that man.
Oh, okay.
And through all of the craziness and wildness, right, never lost his faith, never lost what made him who he is today. And who he is today is a
Nice.
phenomenal person, and a Baptist minister, currently
leader.
serving your congregation. Whoa!
Whoa! Oh, cult
Whoa!
leader too?
That's my title.
Is that his call sign?
Yeah, that's his call sign. Baptist minister, 5 children.
6.
5 children.
6.
Sorry, Dave. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, 6. There's the 6th one. I'm reading your bio wrong because it's just forever.
Too many kids.
A whole fire team.
Yep.
And two of those young, you adopted 2, correct? Is
Correct.
it 2 or 3?
2.
2.
Biological brother.
Adopted 2. Yeah. I mean, the stuff that you started doing in the military, and then how it transitioned out, and then what you are doing today for your community, for people of faith, and then for your children, and then taking on additional children. And we'll kind of get into that background, because I mean, you want to talk about God's work, right? Like, this man does God's work. So thank you so much, Dave, for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for this opportunity. This is a privilege to be on podcast Comfort in Chaos. I'm privileged, honored. Thank you.
Oh man, we are honored here. Just hearing that intro, I'm like, man, why isn't this guy like on Joe Rogan?
Oh my. It's too much hype. Really appreciate the kind words.
Well, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So tell me, how did you and Will connect? I know he kind of briefed a little bit, but I'm assuming, so you met him probably when you were just a specialist, right? Or
I was first class.
Private first class. Okay.
10 Special Forces group there at Fort Carson, Colorado. And the whole military experience for me is an extreme shock. So a very brief picture. I was very conservative. My father was a pastor. And to give you a little bit of perspective, the first time I said the word crap to my mother, in so many words, like mom, my mouth was washed out with Dove soap. And for many years, I feared the word. In fact, I did not publicly use the word crap until I was 21 and felt I was big boy enough to say the word crap in public. So I grew up in a very conservative home. We needed to talk, act a certain way. We were Christian, and I had wonderful siblings. I don't resent at all, but just a very conservative background. So imagine my shock and horror when I met Staff Sergeant Barclay, and he was dynamite of an individual. I had a lot to learn. I was green and new and naive and arrogant and know-it-all, and his work cut out for him.
Oh,
Sure.
Yeah. So
man,
I remember hearing about this kid, right, as a staff sergeant. So I'm coming off, I want to say, my 3rd or 4th deployment at the time.
Yes.
And I hear, hey, we've got fresh blood, got there, and like we're on our way, like we're on the bird back, and they're like, hey, we got this. It was Tim Waters and yourself, and they were like, hey, we got new fresh blood, and Tim's another staff sergeant, right? Had been around the block a couple times, but we got a newbie, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then, do you remember how you were introduced to us?
I do, yeah. And so if I remember, that was quite the system. And you and your teammates were hugely intimidating. Like you said, I mean, you're from a deployment, your 3rd or 4th deployment, and you initiation process, at least there was an initiation process to be a part of the unit that required me being tased. I've never been tased taser gun.
Tased.
I was told just lie on my back, to be very still. They would deploy the charge and tase. Back to my crap episode and saying words risque. Bear in mind that up to that point in my life, I had never said an actual cuss word out loud in public. But initiation ceremony, I never said so many S words in my entire.
They were
In fact,
bottled up, huh?
I mean, it was all bottled up. Yeah,
They
it was
were
all
just
in there.
bottled
It all
up.
came
And
out.
Will just brought them out.
Yuri,
He opened it up.
And I just remember being done, like being tased. I want to impress these guys. This is my new. These are my superiors, many of them. And I just remember getting up. And I remember this, Will, but I was just very. I'm so sorry. Forgive myself. And I just wanted to be okay with it. But that was my introduction to 10 Special Forces and Miss Will Barclay.
That's a hell of an introduction.
Yeah.
I kind of do the same with my soldiers now, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, that's kind of how I still bring them into the Army.
Sure.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, it was a little bit of a different Army back then.
It was.
A little bit, especially at group. And so like we would tase the crap, like we had tasers kind of strewn about, like we would tase each other, like that was not an uncommon thing.
Oh yeah.
And so it was like, hey man, like you got to ride the lightning, like let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And Dave throws every F-bomb that you could ever imagine. And we already knew kind of a little bit of his background, and like he was very you know, very conservative, very
conservative,
sheltered. Yeah, right. Like, and I just remember you looked back at us and you went, "I'm so sorry," and we were dying. We were like, "Oh my god!" Like, did you just apologize for cursing while you got tased? Like,
yeah,
you're good, man.
You're good.
Like it was needed. I still want to apologize. Will, like I shouldn't have said all that. I could have handled my pain better. I'll have pain. I don't need to that necessarily. So
man, damn, Will, what'd you do? It sounds like he still dreams about that moment.
Oh no PTSD.
It was a wild time. A little bit.
You get in the conversation mode, and all of a sudden,
is it okay if it's shown in the frame?
Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah. Oh, look at my mic. It's right in here.
Yeah, look,
in my face. I can kiss it.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. So before that, like as you're growing up, I know you have a younger brother, right?
I have a sister and 2 younger brothers.
Okay.
Oldest.
So bigger family, right? Like, and then what is that like growing up there, right? Like, were you already kind of enveloped in that like it was very conservative upbringing, right? Like, I remember, like, if I remember correctly, like you didn't really watch TV. You weren't like there just was like, I don't even remember. I remember you had like one poster up in your barracks room.
Right.
And we were like,
yeah,
where's all your stuff, dude? And you're like, no, I don't need anything. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. And that poster, Audrey Hepburn.
It was. Yep. I remember
so
that.
That kind of gives you
that's
super
actually kind of classy.
Like,
I can do
that.
that.
Class.
Weirdo.
Classy.
But yeah. So yeah, I paint too severe of a picture. I didn't grow up Amish or Mennonite or anything like that. But maybe a close cousin.
Yeah.
I was homeschooled before. So stinking cool to be homeschooled. I mean, everyone homeschools.
Now it's like a thing.
Now it's a thing.
Yeah.
Now everybody's like,
well, people
homeschool.
recognize. Yeah, people recognize like, oh, this is a viable option, and like I can actually have an influence on the stuff that my kids are learning, and
Correct.
like, and
they're coming out smarter. Like they're testing
in
better,
a lot of cases,
I mean, there's some weird that our school system teaching. So, anyways, yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
And it turns right, like I think as we continue to talk through this, right, like you're gonna see that's like one of the probably a gigantic influence on the man that you are today and the amazing stuff that you do. Like, it's that upbringing of like good, positive values, right? Faith-based. Hey, like this is right. This is wrong. Like there's nuance, but like at the end of the day, like there's right and wrong. And the ability to decipher that and make a path is important.
Absolutely. I will say that September 11th was hugely active in my life. It primary reason I wanted to. So I was a young teenager. September 11th happened.
Okay, so you were talking 9/11, right? 9/11 had
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was, goodness, 12 or 13, 14 years old, a young teenager. Yeah, young teenager.
Okay.
Yeah, hugely formative. I mean, I just remember seeing the towers fall, especially that second tower fall, and just thinking to myself, man alive, we're at war. And up to that point in my life, I had known nothing but peace. I mean, war was something I'd only ever seen on TV, like in the movies or a TV show.
Yeah.
And I just remember my parents talking, and I'm processing the news, and I'm thinking, man, we're at war. And then, just seeing all the footage, especially 2006, 2007, or even before that, 2000, 2003, 2004, just the initial phases of the war on terror. I'm like, my goodness, look at what these guys are doing. And it was just so inspiring. And I just knew I wanted to be a part of it.
Did your parents have any influence on that, or your dad, or just kind of hearing what they say or hearing their comments?
They
Did that
never
provide any
once
motivation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been inspired by my dad and just, his time in the service. But my dad and my mom never, ever pressured me to join the military. In fact, I think they were secretly hoping like I would go right from the whole homeschooled life to Bible college and do the whole
1000%. I think every parent, right? Like that was a whole new thing right back then. Like, oh, we're at war. Like I don't think there was a parent out there who was like, you know what, I want my kid Baghdad next week.
Right.
Baghdad
Exactly.
next
So
week. Let's
I
go.
never felt that pressure from my parents, not one time. I cultivated that desire personally. And, I mean, my dad went through some tough times in the ministry, just crazy church politics. I mean, two churches that he was a part of essentially ran him off. It was just horrible situations. I mean, just every reason you have for not liking church and organized religion, we experienced that stuff, and it was really, really bad.
That's
and
here.
I mean,
like
it was just
the last place that kind of stuff happens at.
Yeah. So it was tough, just watching my dad and my mom and just us as a family going through those difficult times in the ministry, being treated horribly, and so I couldn't join the Army till I was 19, because when I was 18, I was gunning to join the military at 18, but I couldn't join right away because my parents were in such bad financial distress. I actually had to stay home, work a year, and all my paychecks went to helping mom and dad pay bills, which was embarrassing and frustrating. But at 19, my parents were back on their feet, and I'm like, I got to go. In fact, I remember realizing, okay, my parents are good now. The bills are fine. They're fine. Everything's okay. I went straight to the recruiter and I said to the Army recruiter, I don't need your sales pitch. I'm ready to join. I'm ready to join right now. I actually went home, and I was scared my parents were going to kick me out of the house for being rebellious, not talking to them first about this whole situation. And, I just said, hey, mom, dad, I got some news. I need to tell you something. I just joined the Army. I just signed the dotted line. I'm about to go to MEPS. I'm about to do this thing. And I'd already called a friend to see if I could sleep on his couch if my parents were
like
mad.
You already knew what was coming.
Yeah. I mean, it was a situation, but my parents were, I think, a little shocked, surprised to a degree, but were very supportive. And I eventually left for the Army with their blessing.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Now, if
it's
you don't mind,
awesome the faith part, right? Like,
right?
Like you're getting hammered by the thing that should be embracing, that should be right, like all encompassing, and right,
yes,
and you're almost getting shunned by this thing, right? Like for that should be like bringing you into the fold and the family, and to like to have that happen to you, like sounds like multiple times, and then still turn around and go like, no, like that's my path, like this is my calling, like this is my beliefs, right? Like, and I'm here to help people. I'm here to shepherd them.
Yeah.
And to keep that is pretty amazing.
Well, I'm glad that you bring that up. I wasn't planning to get into this aspect. I'll keep it short, but when I tell people why I joined the Army, I'm not lying when I say that I'm a patriot. I love America. September 11th hugely impacted me, and I joined because I wanted to fight terrorists. I wanted to do my part to rid the world of these horrible, horrible people. That is a true statement. I know that's idealistic and grandiose. That was a true motivation.
Yeah.
But another big motivation I had in joining the Army is I was a very angry, bitter young man, and I just wanted to freaking let loose.
Okay.
I'm being brutally honest. But remember, I'm a homeschooled preacher's kid from Florida. Okay, I had sown no wild oats, and the Army was my ticket to do two things: to showcase to the world that I'm a patriot, and to just let loose and live for me, And so, and the Army afforded me both of those opportunities.
It's your Rumspringa.
Your Rumspringa. So let me ask you, Dave, what was your job? Now, you said you went back to work a year. What was the job that you were doing?
I was a police cadet with the Pensacola Police Department, which means I was an over-glorified parking meter maid.
Mall cop.
I handed out more parking tickets than any cadet in Pensacola Police Department history.
I bet your picture is still on that wall at that department, right? I don't think anyone's outdone you yet.
Can you imagine a homeschooled preacher's kid working for a police department as a police cadet? I'm commissioned to find power right to my head.
Power to a homeschooler. That's the rap. Look out.
Exactly. I'm supposed to monitor these parking meters and see and then the 2-hour parking. You know how I get 2-hour parking, people? I chalk their tires. I literally had a piece of I had a piece of chalk. I had a piece of chalk strapped to my belt. I would go and chalk tires in the 2-hour parking meter zone. And if I didn't see that chalk mark move after 2 hours, I clocked them. And after 120 minutes, if that chalk didn't move, $10 parking ticket.
I'm looking for chalk on my tires.
Dave, that is not the Lord's work.
I know. Well, my boss, the traffic sergeant, he got so many phone calls from judges and lawyers and all kinds of people. Like, who is this Cotner that's giving me a ticket for a 2-hour zone? So that's what I did to help out mom and dad.
That's awesome, man. That's savage. Police cadet. Throw it on the resume. That is awesome. Now, I didn't even know. So I mean, where I grew up, they didn't really have, police cadets were obviously people who are going to go to the police academy and, or they're in the process of being full on police officers. I didn't know. So that was like a full on paying gig then, huh?
It was full-time job, 40 plus hours a week. The pay wasn't great, but decent for a single guy. And it was guaranteed that by 20 and a half years old, I would go to the academy. They would pay for it. And as long as I passed the academy, they would hire me at the Pensacola Police Department.
Oh, wow.
But again, I had such a pull towards the Army. I had to do that.
Didn't you also meet?
Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't you also meet Blackburn from Black Hawk Down? Like he was a cop in Pensacola, like that you worked with at that time, right?
Yes, I can't believe you remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
So Todd Blackburn from Black Hawk Down, the one who supposedly fell from the rope and was out of the fight early on, he became a Pensacola Police Department officer. Now here's
the first casualty, was he?
Yeah. What's that?
Wasn't he the first casualty of that operation?
I think so. Yes, absolutely.
He fell out during the air assault.
Well, cool story right there. Cool story. So as a police cadet, I did 911 dispatching on the side to make some extra money. And I also was encouraged to do ride-along. So I would do the midnight shift. And again, I am a homeschooled preacher's kid from Florida. I'm green.
You just
I'm
went
naive.
straight for it, dude.
Yeah.
I went straight for it.
Yeah. So listen, every week I would go into lineup and I would be this eager beaver in the back of lineup with old crusty cops, up front. And, the sergeant would be like, we got Cotner here again, and he wants to ride along. Who's going to take him? And only 2 officers were willing to take me. a Marine Corps veteran, and this Army veteran guy named Blackburn. I knew nothing about Blackburn.
Oh,
Blackburn was
wow.
always very kind to me. He's like, come on, kid, you can ride with me. Never did anything exciting on the patrols that I was on with him. It was mostly quiet nights. We would eat at, that one restaurant that's so good, but it's got cockroaches.
Oh, that
what
one.
do you call it?
Waffle House?
Waffle House. Waffle
Really?
House. Yeah, we'd eat at Waffle House, and you know, he wasn't much of a talker. You know, I would talk to him. He would mostly grunt. But I remember after my first ride along with Todd Blackburn, Officer Blackburn, one of the 911 dispatchers asked me, like, hey, you went on a ride along last night. I was like, yeah. And then he's like, you came into work, you know, this morning, and now you're doing 911 dispatching. He's like, who'd you ride with? I said, Blackburn, Officer Blackburn. He's like, oh, no, really? He's like, do you know the story of Todd Blackburn? I said, no. What are you talking about? He's like, have you seen Black Hawk Down? I'm a homeschooled preacher's kid here in Florida. I don't watch those movies, but I watched it. I was able to watch it, and I'm amazed. And so the very next lineup, I'm like, please pick me. Blackburn picks me. As soon as we get into his patrol car, I'm like, you're Todd Blackburn from Black Hawk Down. He's like, yeah. He's like, I just want you to know I did not fall from the rope. I know how to do air assault. I was shot out of that helicopter. The movie got it wrong. I was like, and I'm just a kid. I'm just amazed. I'm like,
he forever hates Orlando Bloom now.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah. So yeah, interesting,
awesome.
Fun fact. But yeah, forgot about that story.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Setting the record straight here on Comfort and Chaos. Todd Blackburn was allegedly shot out of the helicopter, did not fall.
Correct.
Fact check.
Oh yeah.
So
Orlando Bloom got it wrong.
That's right.
Got it wrong, man. So okay, like you sign up, like, okay, it's game time, right? You go to MEPS, right? Like you duck walk like the rest of us. Like, right. Yeah. We do the thing, right? So you ship off to basic, right?
Yep. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
I know what mine was like, and even for me, right? Like I was a little heathen, like not complete heathen, but I was a heathen enough.
Oh man,
like,
I could only imagine you, dude.
And like, I was like, man, some of these dudes, like some of these mother suckers are straight criminals, like real criminals. Like I'm a little bit of a criminal. These dudes are criminals.
Right.
I cannot imagine what right, like your experience was through that process. Like walk me through that.
I couldn't even honestly.
The level of culture shock.
It's funny you say that, Will, because I was even thinking, like, what did his drill sergeant say? Like, what were they thinking about this guy?
I'm real curious about that.
This is a goody two shoes.
So I'm the guy who's tucking his BDU shirt into his underwear to make sure it is that straight. Okay. All right. So I'm that kid in basic training. Okay. I am tucking my shirt into my underwear to be, they called me Robotner in basic training because I was a freaking robot, and I just remember getting there thinking, this is my jam, rules, regulations, severe discipline. Like this is mommy and daddy,
Mom and dad, I'm back home.
Exactly. First time I interact with a drill sergeant, he's like, you with the face. I'm like, well, I got a face. I don't know what he wants me to do, but here we go. And so, I mean, it was a trip, and I enjoyed it. I was honor grad of basic training just because I was such a weird, robotic, do as I was told. I had no people skills, no social skill. I mean, I did. I mean, I wasn't that weird. I was just not normal. I was not normal. So it was an experience, but I genuinely enjoyed it. I really did.
Was there anything difficult? Like, was there anything like any point in time, like, like where you were like, well, like this is, maybe this isn't right. Like, I'm poor life decision moment.
Yes. Yeah. There was some regret. Now PT, not a problem. I could run, I could do the push-ups, sit-ups, not a problem. The shooting, I'm not a natural shooter. And, I had the birth control glasses on, the BCGs, and they're fogging up, they're fogging up on the rifle range. And I'm just shooting like a maniac, like a crazy person. And I remember the only time a drill sergeant spoke to me like a normal human being was when I was missing all of these targets downrange. And he puts his big, meaty hands on my shoulder and says, son, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath, unfog your glasses, take down the targets one by one. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And lo and behold, I took a deep breath, did exactly as I was told, and I qualified. Never expert, but I qualified. And I'll tell you, gentlemen, I use that same phrase, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, with my leadership as a pastor today. Whenever I come into contact with a problem, or we want to change something, change is a big deal when you're a leader, like making, especially a big change. And my go-to line, the guys make fun of me here at Prairie Flower, where I'm pastoring, but I'll always say it, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And it's just a good principle, not just for shooting, but for life and leadership. And so that was my most difficult part of basic training, was learning how to shoot a weapon appropriately. So, yeah, but I made it. So 9 weeks and good to go.
Yep. And
that's awesome.
And then off to AIT.
Right? Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
Fort Huachuca. Yep. Where'd you do basic, if you don't mind me asking?
I did basic at Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Lost in the Woods.
Fort Leonard Wood. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
That's what's up. So you originally came in as like a 35 Mike, or?
I was initially a 96 Bravo.
96 Bravo.
96 Bravo, transitioned to 35 Foxtrot, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Nice. That's what's up. And so they sent you to Huachuca.
Yes.
How was that? Was it like a huge culture shock going from basic training to all of a sudden
a little more freedom, a little more,
a little more AIT land, a little Intel mech over there.
Well, bear in mind, I am this uptight, sheltered, angry, bitter young man, and so basic training was perfect for me because I have to mind my P's and Q's. I can't go buck wild. It was an AIT with just a little bit more freedom, and I took all the freedom they would give me, and I wasn't a crazy infidel, with my freedom, but I did what everyone else was doing. So I did the party scene, I went out,
Hotel 6, baby.
Went to a strip club for the first time, you
saw the midget then.
Yeah. So I just let loose, and I'm not proud of, doing those things. I violated certain personal principles that I had, but I was just so angry. I mean, church people had treated my family so badly, and I don't want to over dramatize,
no, man.
It's not like they physically assaulted us or, things like that, but it was just so hurtful to watch my dad trying to do the Lord's work, like honestly trying to help people and getting sucked into church politics and then told to leave. And it was just so hurtful to see that over and over again. And so I was an angry young man, angry at people, especially church people, angry at God, angry at myself for not understanding. And so, AIT was a culture shock in that I had a little bit more freedom than basic training. And I just kind of did whatever. And I never got into trouble or anything like that. I mean, I was decent enough. I mean, I passed my classes, but I definitely took advantage of the weekend, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been there, but I'm curious. So so how long, you mentioned, you had this very angry kind of inner self, that was kind of just keeping you, you're just acting off of it, you're just kind of getting through the day or getting through the week. Was that something that just did that ever go away, or you just kind of kept it going, as you transition in your military career?
Man, you guys asked some great questions. I mean, I almost feel
Will just sent me that to ask you. He just texted me. He said, "Ask him this." So.
Yeah, right.
Because I know what day it was.
These are great questions, and I want to be transparent.
Welcome to Comfort and Chaos.
Exactly. This is what this podcast is all about: the comfort in the chaos. Let me phrase it like this: growing up, my dad was a very angry individual. And
Mhm.
if he were here, I would say this to his face. He knows this to be true. He was a very angry individual. I mean, an 11 Bravo infantryman, corrections officer, being treated horribly by church
I
people
mean,
after that.
he had to
Very
deal with
angry.
a
And so I
lot of
saw my
dirty people,
dad.
you know?
I mean, he would yell and he would throw
Oh,
things,
yeah.
and not abusive, just he would let his anger go too far. And I remember as a kid seeing my father respond like that and hating the emotion of anger. And I told myself, I'll never be angry like this again. Little did I know, I was just as angry as my dad. I just wasn't acting out by yelling and throwing, but I was boiling,
Oh, yeah.
boiling. But I never like exploded. I never until I got to 10 Special Forces Group, and I think the sharks in the water smelled fresh blood, and I think they knew, like, okay, this person is so naive
Wow.
and new. And what 10 Special Forces Group did, what the whole Army really did, was it showed me this emotion called anger.
Yeah.
And it got me addicted to it. And so I'm not trying to ramble here, but for instance, in basic training, my drill sergeants were fresh back from Iraq and Afghanistan. One of them was seemingly certifiably crazy. He would go around formation going boom, 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 you're dead, you're shot in the face. I mean, some of these drill sergeants were just like on edge, like fresh back from
Yeah.
war, and really wanted to teach us new trainees about the horrors that await us. And so, I grew up saw an angry dad. I got angry drill sergeants. AIT was a bit of a breather, but then I get to 10 Special Forces Group, and these guys have multiple deployments, and many of them are angry too. And I learned to like anger, and I learned something about myself. If you become angry enough, man, you can get people to do what you want, and you actually get enough like motivation yourself to get stuff done. So little did I know, I became more and more addicted to anger, not just boiling anger, but expressing anger. And as a junior enlisted, I really had to watch it, and it came out in bad ways. Will knows this: my arrogance, my refusing to listen to your instructions because I thought I knew so much better with my one whole deployment under my belt, and you had 4 or 5. That was anger being expressed in my arrogance. But I never knew I was an angry person till much later. I think just in my second deployment, actually, like, I'm an angry person, and I still battle anger to this day. I do. It's like it's my Achilles heel. Can I phrase it like that? And
Yeah.
I hate to phrase it like that, but it's true. Like, I want to be a nice guy, and I'm a pastor, but I battle anger, and I got to be careful with it. And especially in our culture, there's like a zillion things to be angry
Yeah.
about. So,
I
anyways.
think, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. I kind of had almost a similar upbringing, except it was a little bit different. My father was he's now an ordained minister, but it's
Oh, wow,
because
yes.
he grew up and he was a hardcore gangbanger, from southern New Mexico, lowriders, all that stuff. He got into that. And when I was 1, he was pretty well up there, with this gang, and he actually got shot in the face at a it's called the Whole Enchilada Fiesta. And I was 1,
Wow.
and he was pushing me in a stroller, and a rival gang came out, and that was a thing. They fought, they shot each other, like that was a thing, and he, he basically just, he says, that it's in his testimony, and that was where he basically like passed out. He just remembered he blacked out. The bullet luckily went into his jaw and ricocheted off his jaw and came back out.
Wow.
And so he basically got knocked out, but he knew that like that was his time where he didn't want his kid, his son, his one, this is the life he doesn't want him to have, and he just knew God was always calling him to do something else. And now it's time to just get out of this lifestyle,
Yeah.
And the anger, though, back to the anger thing, though, I grew up with that too. And there's a lot of times, even now, where sometimes I'll get angry too. I'll get angry at myself, choices I've made in the past. I'm still paying for stuff now, and, but then I came to a realization, you know, and kind of like looking back, you know, when you compare it to like the Bible, you're just like, man, you know, Jesus got angry. Like he
Correct.
had angry, you know, he would
Yeah.
walk in and flip tables
Right.
in, you know, in a chapel. Basically, he went to church and was pissed off, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's like he acted off of it, but in a positive way. It was to make
Correct.
a point, you know.
Correct.
And so now I channel
Yeah.
my anger, not in a, it's a way to make a point, you know. It's
Yeah.
not a way like I'm in your face, you know, you suck at life. Now it's like, hey, I'm only angry because you made a choice that you have so much potential and you have the opportunity to succeed, but you chose not to by doing an act, executing the way you did.
Yes, sir.
So now I'm just angry now, but we're going to learn from this and it's going to pass, but we got to continue on. Just know it makes me angry what you did, like what
Yeah.
your choice you made. Like even now I have 11-year-old son, and as he's growing up and he's getting into that teenage, there's times where even I would get angry over a choice he made, and I'll see him, he'll start to cry, you know, because he hasn't seen that. And of course I'll feel bad, but then I have to make sure he understands, Mijo, I still love you. You're my son. You know, I'm only angry because the choice you made was a bad one, and I need you to learn from
Right.
this, you know,
Yes,
and
sir.
just know that that choice has an effect on your father, and that is me, you know.
Yeah. I'm glad that you bring that up because anger, in my opinion, it's not a wrong emotion. I think some people label emotions like good versus bad. Anger is not a bad emotion in and of itself. It just needs to be controlled.
Exactly.
And I just, you know, as a young man, as a young soldier, getting slowly addicted to anger, I didn't know how to control it. And and I'm still on a journey of learning how to control my anger and use it for good, use it for things that are positive. I mean, I got 6 kids from 12
6
all the way
kids.
down to 2
Wow.
babies. I mean, there's plenty of things in a given day to get angry about.
Oh,
When
I
I
bet.
come home after the Lord's work and the house is a certifiable dumpster fire wreck, like there's plenty of things to get upset about. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
still on this journey of I'm a man, you know, and you know, anger's a real thing, but I got to control it. And you know,
It's just controlling it.
I've done well, and sometimes I've done poorly, you know. And when I do poorly, I have to apologize, and that's a real
Yeah,
humbling
exactly.
thing to blow up at my kid in a wrong way, and then
Yeah.
to go to him or her and be like, I need to apologize.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
and
yeah,
it's
that's a
so
tough
for
one.
kids
Yeah.
because it's like I'm not apologizing that you got disciplined because what you did was wrong. I am
Yeah.
apologizing for my anger or my harsh words. That's a humbling thing as a father, as a man, to be like, I need to
That
apologize to
certainly
you.
is.
So yeah. So I'm not over my anger issues. I'm still learning how to control this explosive emotion, you know?
Yep.
So
And
yeah.
bringing it back to group, right? Like, especially back then, right? Like we were all angry. Like that was
Yeah.
one of the few, right? Like I grew up a group baby. Most of the folks, you know, that were around us at the time, that was us, right? Like we were all group babies, right? So that was what we knew. We knew I'm going to be gone in 6 months. Like I'm going to go forward. I'm going to war, right? And harnessing that raw, like I'm a bad mother sucker kind of, you know, like I'm a bad dude, like, and I'm gonna go do bad things to bad people, and we're gonna go forward and we're gonna break things and we're gonna go get it, right?
Yes.
Like, and so even when you were back, you were like, I got to get back. Like I'm getting ready to go back forward again. Like we got 6 months. We got 6 months and we're going back out the door. Let's go, boys. Like, and
I
to
love
spin that, like,
deployments. I loved them. I mean, I felt so alive. I mean, bear in mind, when I first got to 10th group, you guys were fresh back from war. And I'm like, I want to go. I want to go now. And so they're like, hey, First Special Forces Group has this special task force and they need an extra intel guy. Are you in? I'm like, send me to war, please.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was a targeting analyst. I mean, just day in, day out, week after week, month after month, I'm literally hunting bad guys and feeding the war machine, you know, giving these ODAs their missions to kill and capture bad guys. It was such an adrenaline rush. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so, but anger fueled a lot of that, you know, both positive and negative. You know, I mean, that's war. I mean, war is driven by caffeine, tobacco, and anger, you know? So, I mean, anyways.
That's awesome.
So you get back from that one. And now you're back with us. And we're gearing up, right, to go back out the door again. So you pretty much almost did a back-to-back.
Correct. I did.
I mean, in between there though, like, I mean, there was definitely some moments of hilarity. There was definitely some moments of you know, us, you know, trying to figure out how we grooved as a team, how
Correct.
we managed each other, right? A bunch of differing personalities. What you know, what are some of the good memories? What are some of those things, right, that you remember that you're like, you look back on and you're like, okay, like that was a good one. Like, those were some of the good days.
Yeah. I remember one time being on duty, and we had a teammate named Mick Harrison, and Mick is excellent soldier. I think he's doing border patrol things these days. You know, so he's still, you know, out there protecting and serving, but Mick was just a super soldier. I was nowhere close to him. He not only had the brains, he also had the muscle and fighting skill.
He didn't have any muscle. That boy was a $120 wet, but he was a honey badger. He was a complete honey badger.
Well, you knew that I was nothing like Mick, and I needed to refine more of my fighting skill, my bravery, however you want to phrase it. And so you ordered me one day to attack Mick from behind, and I
told me no. I remember you telling me no, and I remember, I believe I said, "Look, you're going to go fight him right now, or you're going to fight me right now."
Correct.
And you can figure out which one you want to do.
And I decided to go ahead and follow orders and to attack Mick from behind. And I thought I had him in a fairly good chokehold. And, you know, what happened next is just like fear, guilt, shame. It was so sudden. I mean, Mick knew exactly what was happening. And I was on the ground so fast, begging for my life, probably cussing again, you know. And I immediately submit. And, you know, he basically said, "Nice try, you know, try harder next time." And you said something, I'm sure, positive and uplifting. But that was a good memory. I mean, it was team bonding, you know, and it was good. It was good, I think, for all of us to know what our strengths and weaknesses are. You know, I'm not the shooter fighter type. You know, I mean, I can do those things. I'm, you know, I mean, if called to, I'll do it. But I'm not. That's not what I excel at. You know, and so it's just good to be self-aware and to know this is what you're good at. Stay in your lane. You're not good at this, let the other person do it. And so I think you as a staff sergeant were just in your own unique way trying to showcase, like, hey guys, be self-aware, you know, this is who you are. These are your strengths and weaknesses. So it was good.
I wish that's a great complete BS of my mindset at the time. It was more like like be ready for combat. And B, I want to see if you can fight that guy. We were always trying to get you to come out, right? Like of the shell, because you were shelled up, right? I remember one time I remember you called me in the middle of a night on like a Thursday, and we're like, you were 20, you were underage. I remember that, and you go, "Hey, Sergeant, the Signal kids are going out to drink. Can I go with them and not show up formation in the morning?" I was like, "Dave, how old are you?" You're like, whatever. And I was like, "Get your ruck. I'll see you in the morning." Like no, Dave. Like now I'm gonna punish you for like. But you were like, "I'll just call him and ask." Like,
right. Not one of my bright moments, but
if only soldiers did that now, though. Imagine.
Not one of my best moments. You made me do what you referred to as monkey effers, and
monkey effers. That's the most Christian way I've heard them called that.
Yeah. So I did. You were not happy with me, Will. You were not happy because I was an idiot. I should not have called you and asked to commit a crime.
You should have just done the crime.
I should have just done the crime and just kept my mouth shut and showed up to formation the next day.
Right.
Just, but you were not happy.
But that like speaks to who you are as a person, like right and wrong, like you right, like hey, like let me ask if I can go do this thing, like, and not just go do the crime.
Right.
And I remember because I was roommates with another NCO, AJ, at the time, and I was like, AJ, this dude just called me and asked, like he asked to go be a heathen, like he didn't just go be a heathen, like. There's something about this kid that is amazing.
Call me a genius. Just call me the lovable idiot genius, whatever. Like I shouldn't have done it. You made me pay dearly. I did my monkey efforts and my push-ups, and you made me run a lot. And and
you learned.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Through that, right? Like we
why didn't you just counsel him, Will? Just give him counseling
nowadays,
statement.
like just a counseling statement. Have a nice day.
Counseling.
It was more like go get your water source and a mouthpiece and meet me in the mat room in 20 minutes.
I was terrified. Yeah.
But so we deploy again.
Yes.
That was my last go with you guys.
Correct.
Before I went off and did other things. I would argue like pretty mellow deployment, not too crazy. Things were kind of starting to wind down. That was 2009, I believe. But at some point in there, you meet an amazing angel.
Yes, absolutely. So it was actually in between those two deployments. So my first deployment, I'm a targeting analyst in northern Iraq with 1st Special Forces Group. Then a little bit of a breather before I go to deploy again to Baghdad with 10th Special Forces Group as a political analyst of sorts. In between there, actually towards the tail end of my first deployment, I'm in the MWR rec center, or whatever they call it, and I hop onto Facebook. And Facebook in 2008, that was when I first deployed, was like an up and coming thing.
Yeah.
But I had a Facebook, page, and my sister was one of my friends, and she had posted, my sister that is, had posted some pictures of an office party. And my sister worked at a hospital as like a secretary and worked at this hospital with my future wife, Heather, who was studying to be a nurse. And I see this picture of Heather, this beautiful blonde, one of my sister's friends, and I'm like, hold up a second. So I get off the computer. I go to the phone. Dave. I go to the phone. I'm like, hey, Laura, that's my sister. I'm like, you need to tell me about your friend. Like, what's the intel on this blonde? And I describe her a little bit, and my sister's like, oh, that's Heather. You would love her. I said, just slow down a second. I could learn to love her. I said, you need to do something. I'm the older brother here. You're going to do as I say. You're going to put in a good word for me, and I'm going to shoot off a Facebook message in about a week. I said, you have 1 week to do this. Okay. And my sister does it. She puts in a good word for me. 7 days later, I shoot off a message to Heather. I'm this poor lonely soldier in Iraq fighting for your freedom. Yeah. And she took the bait.
Ram it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a hero. I'm a hero, and you should be privileged for getting this message from me. And so anyway, we were like doing the whole pen pal thing from like November of 2008.
Care packages? Did she send you a care package?
Yep. She sure did. Yep. Cookies, candy, cards, all that. Yeah. So we're doing the whole pen pal thing from November 2008 to February 2009. I take leave to go back home in February of 2009, and we have our first date Valentine's Day 2009. And 4 months later, I propose because I don't play around. If you know, you know. I'm like, hey, I got to go back to Iraq. Will you marry me?
The Army way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like the Army way.
Yeah. And Will was not happy with that decision, by the way.
He was like, he wasn't.
He was like, come here, you wonderful, wonderful saint. You come here. And before I wreck your world right now, I give this 6 months. Now do your monkey efforts. I was like, okay. I'm so sorry, Will. I think I love her. And Will, I can promise you it's 14 years now. I do love her. This is for real. This is for real. This is real love.
I'll take a gigantic L on that one.
Sure.
Yeah, how are you going to come in between their love, Will?
Yeah. You were not happy because granted, you had seen so many stupid soldiers.
I was used to dealing with the other ones that I was
Yes.
like, oh, here we go.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that what's her religious background, right? Like, because you are so into right, the faith. Like, what was her background?
The same. So she grew up Baptist. I grew up Baptist, and so we had the same faith, the same political beliefs, the same outlook on life. We're different people. We do see the world differently because we're two different people. But like the things that matter most at a deep level, like your spiritual beliefs, your political beliefs, your philosophy of life, we were the same. We were the same. And honestly, I think that's. I don't want to get into marriage advice. I'm not a marriage guru here, but I think that is like a key to a successful long-term marriage. You've got to be the same at the things that matter the most. And I mean, other marriages work out when it's not the same, but it's more difficult. It's another challenge to kind of meet if you have vastly different religious beliefs, political beliefs, philosophy of life. So yeah, we were very much the same on those fundamental issues. Yeah.
So essentially in between deployments, right? Like you went ahead and threw in the proposal, and then you guys got married after your second deployment?
After my second deployment, and after I was transitioning out of the Army. Yes.
Okay. So you had made the call at that point. Like, okay, it's time.
Yes.
Okay.
Did she motivate you to that decision?
No, there was no pressure in that regard. It was something I knew that I needed to do. Like I did my time, just 4 years, and I feel silly telling you guys this. You guys are career military men. But for me, it was just, it was one chapter of my life that I knew I needed to do and then to move on.
Did you have
frankly,
a plan?
What's
like
that?
as you were exiting, like, did you have an exit plan? Did you have like, all right, like, I know I came and did this, but this is the path. This is where I want to go. Did you see the ministry as hey, this is the next chapter. This is where I'm going. I already know, like, I just have to get there at this point. Or was it something completely different?
Yeah. So back to my first deployment, here's the pivotal change that took place. Because remember, I'm this angry young man who loves America, wants to be a patriot, fighting for America, but I'm also a very angry young man. 2 weeks after I arrived on my first deployment to Iraq, we suffered our first killed in action. Staff Sergeant David W. Texter, he's like 26, 27 years old, Green Beret, Ranger qualified, dead, gone, never coming back. And the way he died wasn't even a glorious combat death. His team was in a firefight in Mosul, Iraq, and they were retreating to a safer position to return fire. And the vehicle that he was in rolled over and his body was crushed to death. And I remember going out to formation, and I'm in an all-male unit. We're right there, in the sands of Iraq, and we're paying our respects. I mean, just like you see in the movies, you got his portrait at the front, the boots, the weapon down, his helmet. We're getting ready to pay our last respects. And I am surrounded by big, burly war fighters who are weeping. I have never, to this day, been surrounded by so many men who are crying. That'll change your life. Like, I'm not trying to be all like, pulling your emotional, it'll change your life to see war fighters, men, manly men weeping, some of them uncontrollably because a comrade has fallen. And I remember being there in formation. I'm in the back of the formation, and we all had to file by to pay our respects. And I remember giving the most angry prayer I've ever given to God. And I basically told God, I said, here's what's up, God. If you're even real, here's what I need to tell you. Number one, you can't protect my family when we try to serve you in the ministry. And now you clearly can't help or protect me and my comrades while we're over here trying to fight for America. So I don't know what you're good for, if you even exist, but I'm done with you. I'm absolutely done. You need to make it clear whether you're real or not. And so I file by, I pay my respects. And I tell people when I kind of share my story that I honestly believe, though it sounds all mystical and whatever, I honestly believe that God heard that very angry, bitter prayer from an angry, bitter young man. Because 2 weeks after I prayed that prayer, my dad sent me a care package in the mail. And bear in mind, even though my dad had been treated so horribly, he never lost his faith. I mean, he was still reading his Bible and praying every day, taking us to church, which just made me all the more angry as a kid. Because I'm like, Jesus obviously doesn't care about you. And his people in the church don't care about you. I don't know why we play this game. So it just irritated me that he was still, from my point of view, playing this game when clearly God doesn't care, you know. But my dad sent me this care package in the mail, and in the care package were the cookies and the candy and cards and a stack of music CDs, just random CDs that my dad had found, and he decided to throw it in a box. Well, I eat the cookies and the candy and read the cards, and I throw everything else into my locker in my room. And because it was all churchy, like sacred music type stuff. I'm like, soldiers don't listen to this in a combat zone. So I throw it into my locker. 2 weeks later, I don't know what it was, I decided I would just listen to one of these CDs. So I go into my room, I put the CD into my laptop, put on my headphones, and I had pulled at random a CD from Faith Baptist Bible College, all right, which would be my future alma mater, where I would go to school to study for the ministry. At the time, I didn't know anything about the school. I didn't know anything about Iowa. I thought, like, Iowa, that's where they grow potatoes. I didn't know anything about Iowa, you know. We grow corn here, by the way, not potatoes. It's Idaho. But I'm like, whatever. So I'm listening to the CD, and it's talking about the peace of God. I'm like, there's no peace, there's war. It's talking about the love of God. It's all churchy music. I'm like, there's no love, there's hate. The joy of Jesus. I'm like, there's no joy, there's only hate and anger, and you better, you know, gobble that up lest you die. Concepts like being clothed in the righteousness of Christ. And I'm like, clothed in the righteousness of Christ? Clothe yourself in body armor lest you die. So I'm cynical throughout listening to all of this, but it's bringing back memories of like my growing up years, you know, love, joy, peace, the righteousness of Christ, following Christ, even when life doesn't make sense. So at some level, it was comforting because it reminded me of home and my upbringing, my faith, which was real, but was quickly dwindling. And then in the sovereignty of God, I couldn't hear the CD. I thought it was broken. So in the sovereignty of God, I turn up the volume to 100. And I smash in my headphones. And the reason why I couldn't hear what was next in the CD is there was like this little sermonette from one of the choir members before the next song. And this little choir boy was talking about what it means to live life by faith. And he mentioned something that just absolutely like floored me. I mean, it's like Christianity 101, but it was so new to me. He said in his little sermonette, that the essence of the Christian life is you are saved by Jesus. It's his grace, your faith in him that saves you. But then you're required to live the rest of your life by that same grace and that same faith. And even when life doesn't make sense, you continue to trust your good God. You continue to place your faith in Jesus, even when nothing makes sense. And then this whole song called Bow the Knee ensues, very churchy song about trusting God even when life hurts and doesn't make sense. And God used that very churchy, sacred song in the middle of a combat zone to really grip my heart. And, you know, I cry my eyes out. You know, I do my best to repent, tell God I'm sorry. I meet with the chaplain there on base, a Southern Baptist guy. I kind of tell him my story. And I'm like, what do I do? He's like, well, why don't you start reading your Bible again? I didn't even bring a Bible with me to Iraq. I mean, I'm a homeschooled preacher's kid from Florida. I didn't even bring a Bible with me to Iraq. My unsaved heathen friends had brought Bibles as good luck charms. I didn't bring one with me. And I'm like, I don't have a Bible. Can you give me one? So he gives me a camouflage Bible, says, start reading the Gospel of John, which is standard good pastor advice that I give to people today. So I start reading my Bible again, start praying, start going to chapel when I'm able to, not all the time. And then eventually I get back from Iraq, and I knew I needed to start living life differently. Like I couldn't just do the whole party thing. Okay, not that, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world. I knew I needed to stay true to my beliefs. You know, and just, you know, I knew I wanted to live a certain way. So I spent those months leading up to my second deployment doing a lot of designated driving, you know, and I thought I could do the Lord's work in that regard.
Yeah,
so
you did.
I just spent many months making sure my drunk comrades were making it back home safe. And was just a good time. And I tried to stay out of trouble, tried to find a church there in Colorado Springs. But even, I'm sorry,
So you
backing
knew.
up even more to my first deployment. No sooner am I trying to get right with God, reading my Bible, praying, doing all that on deployment, that's when I met Heather. November of 2008, about a month or two after I'd gotten right with the Lord. And, here is this angel, here is this human being who is literally living her life by faith. God literally presents to me on this silver platter, here's what it looks like to live by faith. And I tried everything before my first deployment to find a girl. I was downtown Colorado Springs complimenting girls on their shoelaces and being labeled like Jeffrey Dahmer stalker. I was trying everything. All my buddies were giving these one-liners, these pickup lines. I couldn't do it. I couldn't find a girl. But God had to bring me to Iraq, humble me, and then say, hey, by the way, the woman of your dreams is back home. You never met her because you weren't right to meet her, but here she is. And here's what living life by faith looks like. Because she was in nursing school. She wasn't that great with certain nursing concepts, was really fearful of the math portion, but she was convinced God wants me to be a nurse. So I'm going to trust him through this very rigorous nursing school. And so God used her in a big way in my life to really humble me and to show me this is what it looks like to live by faith. Not just saved by grace through faith, but to live by faith. And so, moving into my second deployment, I knew okay, I got to let go of the anger to some degree, and I got to pursue my calling. Because I knew from a young age, God had called me to be a pastor. But with all my dad's negative experiences, that was the last thing I wanted when I was 19 joining the Army. But I did have a plan. But God used all those things to shake me up and to make me realize, okay, you follow the plan now that I have for you.
And so you exit the Army. And then what is it? Is it GI Bill right through college, right? So you're getting that little stipend, right? You're not immediately into the poorhouse, right?
Exactly. Post 9/11 GI Bill.
Yep. So you work through that. Awesome.
It was a good one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't pay a single cent for my bachelor's degree.
Right.
Not one single. In fact, the Army paid me with that stipend. I was able to pocket the extra. So I was essentially paid, truly paid to get my bachelor's.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It was awesome.
And so you get through that, and how do you find the church where you're at now? Because you went straight from out of college, essentially, right? Hey, I've done a couple deployments. You're not a straight out of college kid, but you're just finished the education portion.
Yes.
Right into the ministry.
Correct. Yeah. So my senior year of Bible college, this church, Prairie Flower Baptist Church in Washington, Iowa, middle of nowhere, America. Yeah, I'm in my senior year of Bible college, and they were without a pastor. Their former pastor had retired, and they were looking for preacher boys to fill the pulpit. And I was one of the names that was on their list. They're like, hey, do you want to come here and preach? I did. And after my first sermon here, one of the guys on the pulpit committee who was in charge of finding the next pastor was like, hey, we kind of like that. Do you have a resume? I didn't have a resume at the time, so I made one and submitted it to him. And a few months later, after extensive interviews and a candidation process, I was invited to be the 40th pastor of Prairie Flower Baptist Church, a church that has been in existence for 170 years. We were founded 7 years before the start of the Civil War.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So that is wild.
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy. I mean, just hearing that testimony, I mean, it just kind of, I kind of live by the same way myself. My father used to, his words still stay with me till this day. He used to always tell me, he used to always say, Mijo, remember, God won't always give you what you want, but he's going to give you what you need. That's right. And sometimes what you think you don't need, and he used to always use the example of, you can pray for $20, let's just say you pray for $20. God, give me $20. He may not give you that $20 bill flying out of the sky, landing in front of you, but he could give you the old man across the street who comes and says, hey, if you cut my grass, I'll give you $20,
Exactly.
Next thing you know, but it's on you. You got to understand that, when you're telling me that, you shared your little testimony there, and I was like, that just popped into my mind too, because you went through what you did. It's almost like it was like he gave you what you needed,
Exactly.
to be perfect for when you did meet Heather and to continue on this path, all those experiences, from joining to experiencing that, to seeing those men cry around you and having those feelings and emotion, to now look at all that you've progressed from those points to now, look where you are now. So that's pretty cool. I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
That's a wild story. That was a wild story. You don't hear too many stories like that.
Yeah.
And so you as you get into the church, as you get into this ministry, right? Like, I remember reading, some of the stuff that you had sent me about, your progression there, and how you came in hot.
Yes.
Hot. Like, I'm coming in and I'm making the change.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing just how immature I am right now, and I don't even know it. You know what I mean? Like, it is like, I look back at my 18-year-old.
I tell my producer, Jamie.
I look back at my 18-year-old self. I'm like, what an idiot. I look at my 28-year-old self and I'm like, what an idiot. I was called to be the lead pastor of Prairie Flower Baptist Church at age 26. What does a 26-year-old know? I was almost 27. Okay, big deal. What does a 26, 27-year-old know about leading 120 people? Did
you get some weird faces from some of the congregation? Where they're just whispering? Are they whispering like, "Hey, this guy?
I can only imagine what the older
who's this
crew
young
was
kid
like,
up here?"
Well, also like a little bit of melanin in the skin. Like, I'm in Washington, Iowa. We all white here. Like,
man.
I'm not trying to go too crazy on your podcast here, but like, I've got the minority quota to Washington, Iowa. So there was some looks. There was some nothing. I'm not going to claim racism or anything like that. Okay, I know racism is real, but anyways, back on track. I did get some weird look, primarily because I was so young.
I bet.
And
did you have that attempt at a Fu Manchu yet that you're currently working on?
I know. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I'm doing my best, Will. I'm doing my best. It's
coming in nice, buddy. It's coming in nice.
It's just, hey, it's the half Asian. It's the half, like
the half Asian.
I'm half Asian. That's why it's only like half. Anyway. So anyways, there was some weird looks, because most of the congregation was like, okay, this kid can preach, but he's so young. Can he lead us through marital problems and parenting crisis and death and all the things that happen in life? A pastor is supposed to be there when a baby's born, when you're about to die, marry them, bury them. Like, can he really handle this? And I thought, because I'm just so cocky, I thought, like, I'm good. Like, I'm a military veteran. I've been to Iraq twice. I'm a paratrooper, or was a paratrooper, Bible college degree, married, couple kids. Like, I just know everything. I can solve your problems, And I came in like a wrecking ball, and I thought I was making good changes, bringing this rural church into the 21st century. And I violated my own principle of slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I made too many with dress code and music style and, just things that make churches. I was stepping on a lot of toes, making good changes, but just way too fast.
Yeah.
And I made a ton of mistakes, and needlessly hurt people because of my excitement and passion, which also needs to be regulated. I mean, we talked about anger needing to be regulated. I'm a passionate guy. That too needs to be regulated. And because if you let that just kind of run all over the place, you can hurt people. You're so excited about life and making all these changes. It's like, you got to care about the 75-year-old who, from their perspective, life is changing so fast. Every time they click on the TV, they're like, what in the world's happening now? And now they have a young buck preacher that wants to change everything in the church, the one place they feel safe. And now there's changes in the culture, changes in the church. And there was just so much I didn't understand as a new pastor. And I made mistakes and had to apologize.
But like, it's that self-reflection, that ability to look and go, hey, like, wait a second. Like, I mean, if you don't have that, you just keep driving and you go right off the cliff, right? Like, but at some point, right, like, you're able to go, hey, wait a second, like, am I doing the right thing? Like, let me self-reflect on this. And is this the right
Shoot, I do
path? Or are we
that
doing,
now.
yeah, like, okay, like, oh, okay, I need to dial back. I see
Mhm.
it, right? Like that ability in a person, and especially, right, a man of faith is extremely important.
Yes, absolutely. Self-awareness and self-reflection, I think in leadership, whether it's military or being a pastor, just leadership in general, you have to be self-aware and you have to do some self-reflection. I understand emergency situations, you just need to get to work, and then you can self-reflect later. But in the
Yeah.
normal course of life, in the normal course of, just ministry and operation, like you have to be self-aware and you have to be
Mhm.
self-reflective. It's huge. Or you're going to hurt a lot of people needlessly. Now, you can't,
Mhm.
as a leader, as a pastor, I can't go around walking on eggshells, constantly afraid I'm going to offend someone, but I don't needlessly need to offend people either. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
it's important. Yeah.
And so one of the things you had brought up, right? Like, at this, as you kind of come in, you've got a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Now you've got 6 kids, Dave.
Yes, sir.
6. You've got a whole fire team.
6
Half a
kids.
dozen.
So for the
Um,
record, I am the oldest of 6. So
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
my mother and father also had 6 kids, and I'm the oldest. And not a
Yeah.
military family. I'm the first one. First one.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I know what it's like. At least I grew up very poor. I mean, we were very, both my parents were, I mean, they're not like, they were not college educated, but they're just hard workers,
Absolutely.
but from humble beginnings, I would say. So
Yeah.
our house, though, I know growing up with 6 kids in a 3-bedroom house, trust me, I mean, we got
Yep.
used to the bunk bed lifestyle. I mean,
oh
Yep.
yeah.
hand-me-down clothes, like it was, I'm very thankful and blessed though that I had that
Yeah.
upbringing. The
Yeah.
house was never quiet, but it always had life in it,
Exactly. Yeah.
always had life.
Well, Will, I feel much safer talking about my 6 kids with your co-host here because most people, when they hear 6 kids, go,
Yeah.
what in the world is wrong with this guy? Like, is he a cult leader? Is he Catholic? Is he crazy? And I'm none of those things. Like, listen, I was so satisfied after my 4th child. My 4th child is
So
Derek.
that's what
Yeah.
I was going to say. Like, you had 3 and then you decided to adopt, right?
Correct. Yes. And Derek, who we adopted, I mean, he was born on the sidewalk there in Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah.
And, we get the phone call, are
Wow.
you guys in? We're like,
How did
we're
that
in.
happen? Like,
How does that
when did
happen?
you decide, like, oh, this is something I'm obviously, like, you and Heather sit
God
down
put it in
and
your heart, or
yeah, like,
Correct.
what was
Yes. Yeah.
where did this come from?
Yeah, yeah, from God. And I know like that can be like, what does that even mean? Like, but with a personal relationship, like Jesus has saved my soul. I'm a dirty, rotten sinner. Clearly, like you've seen a lot of my sin, Will. Okay. Like I'm messed up. I may not be the worst sinner out there, but I'm still a sinner in need of Jesus. And yeah. And so like I have a relationship with God now through Jesus, and God has just placed it on my heart to adopt children, to at least adopt 2, not all the children of the world, but to adopt at least 2. And back in 2019, the whole conversation about fostering and adoption just kept coming up. Like I heard it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in my office one day and I'm like, what in the world? Like this keeps coming up. And I'm talking to God one day and I'm like, God, do you want me to adopt children? Like, because at the time I was good with 3 kids, married to a beautiful woman, 3 kids, a house that I like, no debt,
like
a church that
the
was,
American
doing
dream
well.
right there.
I mean, I was satisfied. 3 kids is good, but adoption kept coming up, just random conversations. So I'm sitting in my office one day right here, and I'm like, well, what would I do if a guy came to my office right now and said, hey, pastor, this sounds crazy. I'm satisfied with my wife and my kids in my life right now. And I don't even really like kids, but I'm thinking God wants me to adopt. Like, what would I counsel this guy to do? And so I'm kind of, war gaming the scenario in my head. I'm like, well, I would encourage him to obviously pray, but also talk to your wife. So I took my own advice. I prayed, God help me. That night I sit down with Heather after we put the kids to bed. And I'm like, hey, I got something serious I want to talk to you about. She's like, what is it? I said, this is going to come out of nowhere, and I'm sorry if this is going to rattle you, but I think maybe God wants us to look into adopting a child. And you should have seen my wife light up like a Christmas tree. Now, listen, my wife is massively unimpressed with me. I told her, like, I'm doing this Comfort and Chaos podcast. Like, isn't that cool? Like, two military guys. I get to do an interview with them. She's like, okay, yeah, all right, whatever. Like, she's just massively and I think that's good.
They can keep us humbled, man. Like,
they do. And by the way, like, to any of you guys out there watching this podcast, find a woman who's massively unimpressed with you. You do not want a wife that thinks you are all that and a bag of chips. You want a wife who is genuinely hard to impress, because she'll keep you humble and make you a better man. So anyways, I've only ever seen Heather light up like a Christmas tree just a handful of times in 14 years of marriage. That conversation on adoption, she looked at me like I was a knight in shining armor. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I think so. Did I make the right choice here? Like, you like this conversation? She's like, I've been thinking about this and praying about this for years. She's like, you do realize I brought this up to you when we were first married, and you shot it down and said, we don't need to do that. We can have our own kids. I vaguely remember that conversation. Like, I mean, it's so foggy, but apparently I said that, and I completely defeated her. So she just quietly prayed about it all these years. I said, so you're telling me you've been praying for me behind my back, and now God is changing my heart, and now we're going to be doing this? She's like, yeah, I think so. I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. And so, like, I made some phone calls, started walking through doors. So that was 2019. 2021, January 2021, we get a phone call. Hey, there's this baby born on the sidewalk to drug addicted homeless parents, needs a home. Are you in? I said, I'm in. That was a Sunday. That next Monday, the very next day, we fly out to Mesa, Arizona. My life completely changed. Absolutely changed.
Wow.
And so, like, meeting Derek, I mean, he has so many drugs in his system, amphetamines, methamphetamines, fentanyl, so many drugs in his system. That little fighter, he beat it all. And today he is a happy, healthy, normal child that is just, he's a continent. He's one of us. Sorry for the air quotes.
Why do you got to do the air quotes for normal?
I just, well, like, what is normal? Like, what is normal? That's what I meant by the air quotes. Sorry. Wrong use of air quotes. But yeah, so I mean, but after adopting Derek, I'm like, now we're done. And I scheduled my vasectomy. All right. And I'm like, we're done. Like, we're gonna stop the flow.
Work out for you?
Yeah. Well, here's the situation. 2 weeks before my vasectomy, okay, with Dr. G, okay, that was his name, Dr. G. 2 weeks before my vasectomy, and I was so looking forward to it. Heather's like, hey, I got something I need to tell you.
Uh-oh.
You're going to be a daddy again. I'm pregnant again. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like, come on, I'm done. Like, I'm done. She's like, yeah, happy early Father's Day. So anyways, I mean, I eventually became happy about it, and then I get my vasectomy, the weirdest faith conversation I've ever had in my life. It's a vasectomy. And so he's doing his thing down there, and he's trying to keep me calm. So what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, I'm a pastor of a church. Oh, really? My dad's a pastor too. And, he does the whole traveling evangelist thing. I'm like, oh, great. And can you focus on what you're doing down here, buddy? Because I need you to stop
eye contact with me. Stop making eye contact with me.
Right, exactly. Heather's right there holding my hand. So work's getting done. Heather's holding my hand like I'm a 5-year-old. My doctor's talking to me about my faith with my pants down. I'm like, what is happening right now? Should I like give my full testimony right now? Like, I want him to focus. But this is a safe space to talk about these stories.
That's right. Sure is.
So anyways, I get the vasectomy done. A couple months later, I find out I'm completely sterile. And I'm like, okay, we are done. We are done. 5 kids, family of 7. We are done. And I told Heather in arrogance again, like, I still don't stink and learn. I'm like, we are done. I said, barring the sovereignty of God, which means either God reverses my procedure, you get pregnant again, or Justin and Chelsea are homeless addicted parents from Mesa, Arizona, who we've lost contact with for the last 2.5 years. If they somehow contact us and say, Derek has a full biological sibling coming, I said, barring those 2 situations, you getting pregnant because my procedure's been reversed, or our son's birth parents reach out to us, I said, we're not having any more kids, barring those 2 situations. And God, I'm telling you, has a divine sense of humor, because I'm giving these bold declarations after the birth of my 5th child in February. July, of that same year, I get home from a very long day at the office. I walk in, and me and my wife have been married long enough where I can just hear just a few words that she's saying and know what she's talking about. She says the words, "How far along is she?" And I immediately do an about face, go back out the door. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, God. I was done at 3 kids. Then I followed you and you gave me a 4th kid. Then I was done. You gave me a 5th kid. And now you're going to give me a second 2 babies in 1 year. That's 2023. 2 babies in 1 year.
Wow.
I'm not even that good of a father, God. Like, what are you doing? So anyways, Heather gets done with the phone call. She's like, guess what that's about? Like, I know. Obviously we say yes. I'm a man of my word. I told her the only way we're going to have more kids is if this or this happens. This thing happened. And I'm not going to split up siblings. I'm not going to do it. You know, I mean, that's Derek's full biological brother. And I know this sounds all like, you know, just whatever, but siblings should stick together.
Yeah.
You know, brothers should stick together, you know, and I got a sister and 2 brothers. My 2 brothers are my best friends, even though they're quite a bit younger than me. We text every day. We frequently talk. We have a great time when we're together. Like, I know for me, my siblings are some of my best friends, like truly. I'm not just saying that. And the thought of Derek having a brother out there, like if they're not together, like how am I going to live with myself? I can't look myself in the mirror and be okay with, I could have adopted that kid, but just because it was hard, I was going to say no. Just because I don't want to change in their diaper, I'm going to say no. Like, no, I'm going to do this. And so we altered the whole of our lives. I mean, we got back into debt. I mean, we had just paid off the first adoption loan, $50,000. Okay. And so we just got out of debt. We're debt free again with 5 kids. We go back into debt. I sell off my 2019 Chevy Suburban. All right. Love that vehicle. Felt cool driving it. I trade that in, a 2019 Chevy Suburban, for a 2007 Dodge Sprinter, a 10-passenger van. I do a mound of paperwork to prove I'm not some raging pervert that can actually adopt kids. I go through that whole paperwork process again, you know.
The fact that you had to shell out that level of money to adopt drug addicted, homeless, right? Like they just
says a lot about you, man.
Like,
$35,000 flat fee to the adoption agency, a finder's fee. The adoption agency didn't even know about the kid till after he was born on the sidewalk. $35,000 straight flat fee. And I know your podcast is not to expose the evils of the adoption industry, but I'm telling you, there's some dark, shady stuff that happens. I'm telling you, there's some dark, shady stuff that happens in the adoption world. It's the perfect scenario. Wow. You have a desperate product, these birth parents that are got criminal backgrounds, they're homeless, they're addicted, and often you have desperate parents who usually can't have their own kids. You put those 2 things together, a desperate product, a desperate customer, and watch the money flow. It is the perfect business model.
It really is.
It can be a sanitized version of human trafficking. And I know that's harsh. I'm on my soapbox, I'm done, but it's ungodly, the amount of money.
Come back on, and we're gonna probably do this again, and just with that alone.
Now, I just want to know, what's next? Puppies?
Yeah.
I figured that's going to be next now, you know.
Right.
How many puppies?
We do have a dog.
Starts there.
Purchased in 2020 or gifted to us in 2020, actually. Yeah.
There might be another puppy on the sidewalk being born right now that you guys.
Oh, you mean that? I know. I catch your drift now. It could be. And you know what? I've now learned to keep my mouth shut. It's like, God, whatever you want. You know, I want to be done at 6 kids. I really do. I really don't want to. Please, dear Lord Jesus, if you love me, no.
He's giving you what you need.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Exactly. No, that's exactly it. Like, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I got a great wife. I mean, can you imagine? I'm doing this podcast with you from the quietness of my office here at the church. My wife is dealing with 6 kids right now, 2 of which are babies.
Hey, make sure to give her a big thank you on behalf of Will and I.
Well, thank you. But I mean, she doesn't regret me. She doesn't like resent me. Like she loves me. She's like, go do it. Go preach. Go do the podcast. Go do this stuff. I will keep the home fires burning.
I got an idea. It'll smooth it all over. Buffalo Trace. It's what's for dinner. So
very true.
Got to get your little promo in. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what's Dave like? I mean, the fact that you have done that, I mean, is absolutely incredible. Like, what's next, man? Like, is it absolutely just you're gonna continue to watch over your flock and this amazing ministry that you're developing in this you call it the middle of nowhere, like I would call it America, right? Like
America. Yeah.
an American town, right? Like in the center of the country, and you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your community. Like, what's next for Dave Kottner?
I'm open to whatever God has for me. I mean, I'm serious. Like, honestly,
You did
it
learn
is
a
so-
lesson.
What? Exact. Well, it is so freeing to realize as a man, you're not the boss of your life. Like, I'll speak
Yeah.
for myself. I'm not the boss of my life. God is the boss. If he tells me you're going to have another kid, well, you know what? Yes, sir. And I'm going to like it. And truly, I do.
Yeah.
Like the last two of my kids, all right. I mean, I was so done at 4, right? My last 2 kids, they are the kids I never knew I desperately wanted. And if I can be really cheesy, needed. Like, I love my
Mhm.
boys. I love
Mhm.
Daxton and Drake. I mean, they're like the Irish twins, born 8 months apart from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. I mean,
That's pretty
God
cool.
is the boss of my life, whatever he wants. Like, I need to keep my mouth shut and stop dictating to others or to him, especially, what I'm going to do or not going to do. Like, I mean, there's something to be said about being, confident and, bold about what you want to do and make plans. But at the end of the day, as a Christian, I have to submit all of that to God. Like, whatever
Mhm.
you want. You want me to do this whole pastoring thing in the middle of a cornfield? I'll do it, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. I'll pursue excellence doing it. Because just because I'm stuck here in the middle of rural America doesn't mean I have to be, just lackadaisical with my job. I can
Yeah.
pursue excellence in the middle of a cornfield. And I firmly believe no matter
That's
what
awesome.
you do, I don't care if you work at a
Very
fast food
true.
restaurant or you're a nurse or you're in the military or you're a pastor in the middle of a cornfield. If God's given you something to do it with all your might and do a good job
Yeah.
at it. Be the best you can be, and so I don't want to ramble. All that to say, I'm open to whatever, whether that's continuing to pastor, adopt more kids, write a book. I love writing. I mean, I don't know what God has, I just want to be humble and hungry, to kind of steal a phrase that's kind of popular out there, but I like it. Like, I want to be humble and hungry. Humble, like, okay, God is in charge here, but also hungry, like I want to get after it. I want to make a difference,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to by adopting kids, by shepherding a flock here and reaching out to the community and those who are struggling and hurting with different addictions and problems. Um, I just want to be open to whatever he has, and because his plans are best. His timing is perfect.
Very true. Very true.
I think we
Yeah.
got to leave it there, man. Like, it doesn't
That's
get
a
any
good
better
one.
than that. It doesn't get any better than that right there, man. Like, thank you so much
Yeah.
for agreeing to come on and talk to a couple of heathens.
You guys have been
That's right.
awesome.
That's right.
You guys
No,
have
we
been
really
awesome.
do
And I
appreciate
just,
that. Hey, big thank you to Heather too.
yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Heather,
you.
Yes.
for allowing him to come on here tonight. All right, and share this wonderful
Absolutely.
story. And to the rest of you guys, hey, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate that, and I hope you guys learned something from Dave's story here. And by all means, please comment if you have any thoughts or stuff that's in anything that we spoke about throughout the video or anything. You got questions, or even something that you went through that was similar base to what Dave went through, or anything that we spoke about tonight. Hey, comment down below. Let us know your thoughts.
And we will definitely pin Dave's bio and hit the link to you have done an amazing job. I was reading it again today at you.
Definitely check out the links below, team, as we go on. We'll finish off with this. Before we go out, we're going to let Dave send you off with a little message that we like to ask all our guests. All right. How do you find comfort in your chaos?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. My comfort in my chaos, and we all have chaos in our lives, but my comfort in my chaos is truly, and I know this sounds churchy, preachy, but it's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ,
Okay.
who actually came and actually lived in my place. I mean, the life I should have lived, he lived for me. He lived perfectly. And the death I should have died, He died in my place for my sins, was buried, and rose again on the third day. And the Bible says if you believe in who Jesus is as the God-man, and you trust in what he did for you on that cross and in his resurrection, you'll be saved from your sins. And that provides to me ultimate comfort in any chaos I find. And I know that sounds
That's right.
churchy, but I have to say it.
No, that's
And
awesome.
I know some will bristle hearing that, and it just sounds so churchy, so religious-like, but it's where I find my comfort in my chaos. I
No,
look to
that's
him.
awesome.
He's the boss of my life.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Will, you got anything last to say before we head out?
Yeah, man. Like, obviously, like I absolutely expected that of where you're going to find comfort in that chaos. The boss of my life, as you know, I'm a little bit more of a heathen, and she's upstairs, but I follow the exact same path. I just listen to whatever she says, and I'm going to do that, and it's going to turn out okay.
Absolutely. Jesus loves heathens too.
That's right. That's right. All right, team. On that note, we'll catch you on the next one.